Unpredictable, agile, and built for the battles of tomorrow. The US Marine Corps is quietly rewriting the rules of modern warfare, and at the heart of that transformation is a bold new concept, the Lightning Carrier. Originally launched under the Marines Force Design 2030 plan, this game-changing platform takes a hulking amphibious assault ship and reimagines it as a fast, flexible mini-aircraft carrier, packed with stealth jets and purpose-built for island warfare in the Indo-Pacific. So, let's take a look at this innovative concept and how it changes the status quo, particularly in the Indo-Pacific theatre. Since the Second World War, the US's fleet of aircraft carriers has enabled it to function more or less as the world's policeman, providing an unrivaled ability to project power to all corners of the globe. With up to 90 of the world's most advanced fighter jets on board and backed by a carrier strike group including destroyers, frigates, and at least one nuclear-capable submarine, the US's 11 Nimitz and Ford-class flat tops are the pinnacle of modern military power. However, they're extremely expensive and take years to build, even without the construction and budgetary overruns that are all too common these days. Meaning, it's just not practical for the US to significantly ramp up production of its new Ford-class carriers. With carrier groups as yet untested in combat against high-tech Chinese missiles and drones, concerns also remain about the potential vulnerability of these jewels in the US Navy's crown in an ultra-modern clash, and their ability to get close enough to the battle to be effective. That's the reason the Marines started looking at lighter carrier options. However, it's certainly not just the role for the carrier that the Force Design 2030 plan seeks to address. The plan has a heavy focus on upgrading legacy systems, such as phasing out tanks and heavy artillery in favor of mobile, long-range precision firepower. It also emphasizes enhanced mobility and lethality by introducing systems like Nemesis anti-ship missiles, HIMARS multiple rocket launch systems, Gator radar, MQ-9A Reaper drones, and other new advanced US weaponry. These systems will be needed to adequately equip new units such as the Marine Littoral Regiments or MLRs that are optimized for island warfare in the Pacific. The various units will be coordinated via Joint Kill Web, integrating sensors and shooters across domains for faster network warfare. Supporting distributed operations will require distributed logistics, including the use of autonomous resupply systems like the Autonomous Low Profile Vessel or ALPV and Tactical Resupply UAS, alongside assets pre-positioned to sustain dispersed units. The Lightning Carrier concept ticks many of these boxes and is a direct outcome of Force Design 2030's emphasis on agility, dispersal, and forward presence. The US has long maintained a fleet of powerful amphibious assault ships to facilitate amphibious landings by Marines and support them from the air, primarily by means of attack helicopters. The Lightning Carrier concept repurposes the latest America-class amphibious assault ships, including USS America and USS Tripoli, and some older Wasp-class ships to operate as small aircraft carriers packed with up to 20 F-35B Lightning II stealth fighters per ship. The Lockheed Martin F-35B Lightning is the short takeoff and vertical landing or STOVL variant of the F-35 Lightning II, specifically designed for carrier operations by the Marines and allies operating smaller carriers or amphibious ships. In addition to the Marines, it's currently in service with the British Royal Air Force and Navy, specifically aboard their Queen Elizabeth-class aircraft carriers, HMS Queen Elizabeth and HMS Prince of Wales. Italy also assembles F-35Bs under license and operates them from its Cavour aircraft carrier and the amphibious assault ship Trieste, while Japan is in the process of acquiring 42 F-35Bs to operate from its Izumo-class destroyers, which are also being modified to function as light aircraft carriers. The F-35B measures 51.2 feet in length, has a wingspan of 35 feet, and stands 14.3 feet tall. It's powered by a single Pratt & Whitney F135 PW600 engine, which provides a maximum thrust of 41,000 lbf in hover mode enabling the jet's STOVL capabilities. It has a top speed of around Mach 1.6, around 1,200 miles per hour, and a combat radius of around 505 miles. What makes this F-35 variant perfect for carrier-based operations from smaller flat tops is its Rolls-Royce shaft-driven lift fan system, which allows the F-35B to perform vertical takeoffs and landings or short takeoffs using a ski jump ramp. The F-35B is also optimized for shipborne rolling vertical landing, or SRVL, a technique that uses forward airspeed to generate wing lift during landing. This allows the aircraft to land with a significantly higher weight than a purely vertical landing, ideal for smaller carriers with shorter runways. The F-35B also features a unique control system that manages the transition between conventional flight and vertical flight, known as the STOVL hook control. It's also equipped with advanced avionics, including the AN/APG-81 ESA radar, AN/AAQ-37 distributed aperture system for missile warning, and the AN/ASQ-239 Barracuda electronic warfare system, enhancing its situational awareness and survivability in contested environments. These capabilities make the F-35B invaluable in marine deployments as a source of situational awareness and battle coordination. But needless to say, the F-35B also offers massive destructive power. It's designed to carry a 25mm GAU-22A rotary cannon internally, and has 4 internal weapon bays and 6 external hardpoints, with a total weapons payload capacity of up to 18,000 pounds. These bays can carry a wide array of weapons, including AIM-120 AMRAAM, AIM-9X Sidewinder, AIM-132 ASRAAM, and MBDA Meteor Block 4 air-to-air missiles, AGM-88G, AARGM-ER, AGM-158 JASSM, Spear 3, and AGM-179 JAGM air-to-surface missiles, AGM-158C long-range anti-ship missiles, and a range of bombs including JDAM, Paveway series, AGM-154 JSO, and even the B-61 Mod 12 nuclear gravity bomb. In addition to the 5th generation fighters, the Lightning carriers can still host the MV-22B Ospreys and CH-53C Stallions, for which their flight decks were originally designed, or any combination of choppers and F-35Bs, and host up to 1,800 Marines and their equipment on top of that. With a length of 844 feet and 45,000 tons of displacement, the USS America-class ships can hardly be described as small. However, compared to the Ford-class carrier's 1,100-foot length and 100,000-ton displacement, they're certainly a lot smaller. That means that while they can still fulfill the carrier role of a floating forward operating airbase, Lightning carriers offer the Marines speed, flexibility, and a smaller operational footprint than the much larger traditional carriers. The smaller ships can operate from smaller ports, reach shallower waters, and function with fewer ships in support. Indeed, where a carrier strike group consists of as many as 10 ships, an amphibious ready group, or ARG, in which a Lightning carrier operates, has just 3: the carrier, an amphibious transport dock, and a dock landing ship. Paired with the F-35Bs, the 4,400-strong Marine Expeditionary Unit, or MEU, and its equipment carried by the ARG become a self-contained forward-deployed force capable of responding to threats, reinforcing remote outposts, or securing islands. And those are exactly the kinds of missions that the Marines envisage being engaged in if war breaks out with China in Taiwan or the broader South China Sea. China has built numerous artificial islands in the region, bristling with missiles, fighter jets, and radars. As recently retired Marine Corps Commandant General David Berger, an architect of Force Design 2030, put it, China has moved out to sea, and they have long-range weapons and a lot of them. These artificial islands would almost certainly become targets for the Marines in the event of war. Moreover, it's also likely that China might attack or even seize the US or its allies' bases that are strung out along the first and second island chains, requiring the Marines to liberate them. In these situations, reaction time would be of the essence. Moving an ARG into place is likely to take a lot less time than a full strike carrier group. In fact, in the event of a large-scale war, it's likely that the US's carriers would already be engaged, in which case an ARG could be quickly assembled to function as an ad hoc carrier group to respond to an emergency on an outlying island. Alternatively, a Lightning carrier could accompany a Nimitz or Ford-class carrier, adding up to 20 fighter jets to the carrier's available force. It goes without saying that this versatility is a boon for the Marines, as they reconfigure for expeditionary advanced base operations, as opposed to the counterinsurgency operations that dominated the pre-drone war on terror years. There's also a financial advantage to using smaller Lightning carriers in typically more dangerous marine operations. While an America-class amphibious assault ship is far from cheap at over $3 billion each, that's more than 4 times less than a $13 billion Ford-class carrier. And that's without counting the cost of the aircraft and other equipment aboard. So the loss of one would be a considerably less bitter pill to swallow. However, according to General Berger, there's another more valuable advantage that the Lightning carriers give the Marines: unpredictability. I'm in favour of things like the Lightning carrier concept because I believe we need to tactically and operationally be unpredictable, he told an Amphibious Warship Industrial Base Coalition event on Capitol Hill in 2020. We've been sending out every Amphibious Ready group and Marine Expeditionary Unit looking mirror image for 20 years. We need to change that. You'd like to see one of those big decks one time go out with 2 squadrons of F-35s, and next time fully loaded with MV-22s and another MEU with a 50-50 combo. Now that's how you become unpredictable. How do you defend against that? Back then, the Lightning carrier was still just a concept, with Berger noting in his July 2020 Commandant's Planning Guidance that he saw potential in the Lightning carrier concept, based on Wasp-class landing helicopter dock ships and the newer America-class amphibious assault ships. Now that potential has been realised. In just a few years, the US will already have 2 America-class carriers active, the USS America and the USS Tripoli, with a Wasp-class ship, the USS Bataan, in dock, receiving the necessary upgrades to enable it to carry F-35Bs. In May 2025, the USS Tripoli was forward deployed to Sasebo, Japan, as part of a scheduled rotation of forces to the Pacific, replacing the USS America. In late November, a set of F-35B night flight operations conducted from the Tripoli in the 7th Fleet Area of Responsibility highlighted exactly how an amphibious assault ship can now act as a de facto small aircraft carrier in the Indo-Pacific. From a tactical perspective, night flight operations complicate the enemy's ability to track sorties and predict deck cycles. At the same time, as noted earlier, the F-35B sensors and networking allow it to act as both a strike platform and an airborne node feeding targeting data to other naval and joint systems. That means, beyond its kinetic role, the F-35B enhances the US military's emerging kill web by collecting and transmitting targeting data in real time to Aegis-equipped destroyers, submarines, and land-based fires such as HIMARS or M270 units. Compared with a nuclear aircraft carrier, the USS Tripoli's more compact hull means it can disperse high-value air assets across a wider maritime area, reducing the concentration of risk and enabling distributed maritime operations. The F-35B's vertical takeoff capabilities make it possible to sustain higher sortie rates from the shorter deck, even in confined waters or where conventional carrier operations might be constrained. In other words, an amphibious ship becomes a flexible tool for close air support, maritime strikes, and air defense in contested littoral areas. Even a single F-35B sortie at night can reshape a maritime engagement by providing immediate, fused situational awareness to joint forces operating across the theatre. But the ability to conduct nighttime operations also has strategic implications. It sends a clear signal to China that the US has the means to expand the number of decks from which 5th-generation aircraft can operate near critical maritime choke points and contested waters, including the East and South China Seas. This posture strengthens deterrence by offering decision makers a larger, more mobile and less vulnerable set of air power options than relying on a single carrier strike group. The ability to surge F-35 cover at will also reassures allies such as Japan that US forces are not only present but continuously enhancing their capability to conduct night operations as needed. In a crisis around Taiwan or along the first island chain, a forward-deployed Lightning carrier launching F-35Bs at night will provide a rapid, survivable and adaptable tool for escalation control and precision strikes, without immediately needing to commit a supercarrier to the task. Put it all together, and it's easy to understand why the Marines see the Lightning carrier as such an important arrow in its quiver. The plan is to have up to 11 Lightning carriers in total. Initially, the 2 America-class ships will be accompanied by 9 refitted Wasp-class hulls. Eventually, these will be replaced by new America-class ships, which are intended to replace the aging Wasps in any event. Still, no weapon is infallible, and the Lightning carrier concept does have certain limitations. For starters, while the new America-class ships under construction are being built to support F-35Bs from the ground up, the conversion of the existing Wasp-class ships is a complex and time-consuming process. The conversion of the USS Bataan, currently underway, is expected to take in excess of 600 days. We have to completely revamp the flight deck, Captain Trace Head, the ship's executive officer, told Business Insider in May 2024, just before the ship headed for refurbishment, adding that the electrical demand is different from any aircraft that we have on board. Wasp-class amphibious assault ships were built to house the Harrier, the legendary British VTOL plane, and proved their worth in the Iraq War in 2003. But the F-35B is a different beast, heavier, generating more heat and more complex. Engineers will have to harden the flight deck considerably and ensure that the Bataan can withstand the F-35B's unique vertical takeoff process, which produces intense heat that can damage the flight deck. The Wasp-class ships also have less deck space for parking F-35Bs than the America-class, which were essentially conceived to give a greater aviation focus to the US's amphibious ships. The America-class's design removed the Wasp-class's well deck, providing room for up to 20 F-35Bs as opposed to the Wasp's 6 to 10. A larger hangar and increased aviation fuel and munition storage were also added. These modifications make the America-class much more F-35 friendly, but the loss of the well deck means that the America-class ships can't launch landing craft air cushions or LCACs, the modern incarnation of the hovercraft or naval drones like its predecessor. But that limitation only applies to the current incarnation of the America-class, the Block O, which includes both current Lightning carriers. Future ships, including the already under construction USS Bougainville and USS Fallujah, and on order USS Helmand Province, will be built under the Block 1 standard, which reintroduces the well deck to restore flexibility for full-spectrum amphibious operations while retaining strong aviation support. Another notable limitation of Lightning carriers is their lower survivability compared to the Nimitz and Ford-class supercarriers. Due to their different mission profile, amphibious assault ships are built to a lower survivability level, Level 2, than aircraft carriers, Level 3. Level 2 ships are built to carry out the Marine Corps' concepts of operational maneuver from the sea and ship-to-objective maneuver. These operations require unobstructed, wide-open spaces, passageways, and ramps with no fire curtains or dividing doors that might impede the rapid movement of Marines, vehicles, and material ashore. That requires a significant trade-off of less rigorous protection on both the hull and the flight deck, making the Lightning carriers more vulnerable to taking serious damage from a direct or nearby hit. A second limitation is that, despite its massive size, the America-class's 45,000-ton displacement is too light to operate its aircraft more than 45% of the time in 4 of the most tactically significant seas around the world, according to a 1980 Naval Sea Systems Command study. There are also concerns that the lack of a well deck in the Block O models means the F-35Bs will have to undergo vertical replenishment in between sorties, which will likely slow down sortie rates. Questions also remain about where and how the extra ordnance required to stock 20 F-35Bs will be stored. As retired US Navy Captain Talbot Manville phrased it in a 2023 article for the US Naval Institute, 20 F-35B strike fighters will quickly exhaust America's ordnance, which begs the question, where will the extra ordnance be stowed? Stowing it in the hangar bay or vehicle stowage is a bad idea. If there's no extra space for stowage, how often will they have to conduct vertical replenishment? How long will that take? Are there enough logistic ships to meet the frequency of resupply? As can be seen from the plans for the upgraded Block 1 design, some of these issues are already being addressed, such as restoring a well deck and increasing storage space. No doubt, the others will be addressed or worked around over time with the benefit of operational experience. Further change is inevitable, but for now, the Lightning carriers already provide a significant expansion in the US's ability to project power, and their mobility and flexibility may already give the US a decisive edge in its escalating standoff with China. Now, make sure to subscribe to the channel for all the most important naval and military news from around the world. Thanks for watching.